I'm currently giving my disclaimer for the following chart up on the desk. I'm eating a little bit, so we're just gonna kind of float with this so you can see. So we're gonna zoom in here, this blurry number to start. I think you can see it. The sun and the moon. Let me actually just move this over out of the way a bit so you can see more of it. I'm a bit of a mess at the moment. It is what it is. It is what it is. So I've got the sun and the moon to start, and I'll give my little disclaimer. Essentially, as you can tell, there are some luminary objects outside. One of those, many of us call the sun. It's been called many names over the years. And there's also the moon. Again, many names, but I speak English, so I use those terms. Now, right now, the sun is in Cancer. It's in the constellation Cancer. So what does that mean? Well, it's in the part of the sky where the sun is whenever it's summertime. Now, maybe it's not high summer. Leo might be considered high summer. But the sun in Cancer is also sort of the beginning of summer. So the significations and the stories that are created kind of have to do with that main object first. I always like to start with the sun because the sun is a big deal. So if we were to tell a story, if we're to use the sun as a story, this is a big deal. And the sun is in the part of the heavens called Cancer. At one time, there was a specific constellation in the heavens that was known as the crab, if you will, that is directly associated with this season. But now what's happening is, due to slow shifting, there are no longer correlations between the fixed positions of the stars in the heavens that appear to be fixed and us. Like they've shifted. There was one point where the tropical zodiacal system, which is the one I use, and where the literal stars were matched, but they're not anymore. They've moved. So that's why in some systems in astrology you might be a Pisces, and then in another one you could still be a Pisces, or you could be something else. For me, I'm a Pisces no matter which system, which feels about right. Anyways, I use the one based off the seasons. It's the one that works for me. I have nothing against anybody's system for storytelling. We're on the same planet, I believe. So, yeah. Anyways, this moon, sun conjunction, as you can see, they're together. They're at 24 degrees in Cancer. So we're nearing the end of Cancer. We're getting into the heart of summer, which is more Leo season. And the moon is in charge of Cancer, so the moon is home. Now, when it's a new moon, though, you can't see the moon. So the moon is in charge of Cancer, according to the story. So the feminine, the receptive part, the part of us that receives, it's of the archetypes, the moon is nurturing, reflecting, mothering, that kind of a vibe. Like feeding your baby breast milk. Like, I'm like cupping my little moob. It's quite a powerful feminine energy. Now the sun is there, so it does listen to the moon. Technically, because it's the moon in the story is like in charge of that region. So since the moon is at home, there's this sense of like it's a really good time to nurture. Like, a really good time. Well, how do you nurture? You know, I'm doing it for myself right now. Why do I keep doing this? Even though sometimes I only get like 15 viewers or less. Because I like it. Because I like slowing down and thinking about my place in the universe in relationship to these massive objects. And I'm audacious enough to call it our place in the universe. I know you're having a unique experience. I get that. But we're also having a collective experience that I believe is really manifesting consistently, powerfully. So, to begin, we've kind of like basically found out, okay, where's the sun? The sun's in Cancer. Okay, who's in charge of Cancer? The moon. Okay, and they're together. So there's a union, if you will. Now, the union is interesting because you can't see the moon. So the visual thing is we still see the sun. The days are pretty long because it's summertime, right? We got a lot of light. But the moon, there's this feminine reflected thing that's really, really directly contacting with the sun. It's like typically seen as like a new cycle whenever they begin. So they're what we want to start with. We've kind of already established the rulership pattern. So the sun, let's see, the sun is in charge of Leo, which is right there, the next constellation. So it's getting close to its home territory. And then at that point, the sun will be in rulership. So it's like the most bright, vivacious, lively, soulful, energetic time. And I think that's reflective in the heat of the sun. It's like there's a ferocity to the sun in many places at that point. So we're moving into that terror, but for now we're still in early summer. The moon is still in charge, so it's definitely still very prominent and bright because the moon is very bright and very close. There's something very, I can't stress like the personal closeness of the moon. So because you can see it, like we can literally with our naked eyes see the patterns and the grooves and the marks. It's like seeing someone's wrinkles on their face. It's such a pleasure to be able to see that close because you really can see it. Like the sun, we can't even look at it for goodness sakes. I mean, I guess with sunglasses you could, but some people say you should. My dad's an eye doctor. He said it's not advised to look at the sun. So maybe at sunset or something where it's safer. This is what's going on. So it's a very nurturing time, a very like protective, motherly kind of a time. So that is what I want to begin with. Now, as you look at this, you can see on this map that there's this point right here. There's a sextile coming from Uranus that's directly infusing that spot. So there's the sudden at 22 degrees. It's like, since it's in Taurus, that message is sort of going, let's keep things interesting. Let's spice something up. Some habit. So if you're eating a bunch of like junk food, you need to let that go. Like you need to really fucking let that go. You need to make a revolutionary change. Just fucking do it. Like that's kind of where that's coming from. Now why am I making it so practical and ritually related? It's because to me, Uranus and Taurus is about like your steadiest, most mundane daily habits. So that's the thing that needs the little change. And it's a positive change, like a good change. Like, you've been saying that you're going to stretch every day? Fucking stretch every day. Now. Stretch right now, if you're watching this. There's no reason you can't multitask. Now. Sudden. Do it. Like, that's the kind of energy of Uranus and Taurus. And it's consistent. Like, it's make a change and then stick to it. You only have to, so, how can I say this? For me, I have a trouble with working out. The current paradigms and the current options, I'm trying to figure out how to work with my energy. So for me, since there's a pool in the complex, there's a lot of going down to the pool, doing like arm stuff. There's yoga at the park, there's taking walks, that sort of thing. I don't know what your situation is, I don't know what you have around, but certainly there's offerings. I'm trying to put out offerings to help people make these healthy revolutions. Now, so that's one little quick thing. And this next trine is coming from Neptune, that's just retrograde. There's a sense of like some sort of very emotional, very sensitive, very dreamy energy. But like, I don't want in any way to make retrograde bad, but it's almost like reimagining. So let's say you're an individual who got some trauma in your youth. So, for instance, I would say that being spanked is a degree of trauma. Now, how would I reimagine that? How would I see that from like almost like a very spiritual, very enlightened kind of a place? Well, it's also foggy, right? Because when you're a little kid and you're getting spanked, you probably don't remember most of it. Just because, you know, you're a little kid. But there's this lingering result from those behaviors. Someone who loves you, who's feeding you, who's caretaking you, is also suddenly hurting you. So the people that you're trying to learn how to trust in your little tiny body with your kind of dumb brain, no offense, not like dumb, brilliant, magnificent, adaptive, like truly amazing, but dumb in the sense like a baby doesn't really know the boundaries yet. So people typically, you know, come and try and step in. I had pretty solid parents. Some people have abusive parents or abusive relatives. Like, thinking of Perks of Being a Wallflower. Like, that's in some ways a book about abuse in some ways, but it's also such a beautiful love story about coming of age in a society that has serious hardships. It's really beautiful. There's this escapist, dreamy, reflective quality. No, I think it is big. It's big. Neptune in Pisces is big. It'll never be this big again. It'll never be this big again. The perceptions will never be this wide-reaching, I don't think, for me and my whole life, as they are right now. It's honestly so big, though, that it's like... It's like it's impossible to grasp anything. It's just so big. Anyways, there's that energy coursing through. Now, there's also this opposition, so that's the big red one. I don't know if you can see it. Does it fucking matter? Look up your fucking chart yourself. I'm too lazy. Pluto's at the end of Capricorn. Exactly, pretty much opposed. It's at 29, this one's at 24, so it's like, 5 degrees off, but pretty clear red line. Pluto's an interesting one. Very slow. Very, very subtle. Imperceptibly subtle in many ways, but still retrograding. So it's like, there's a system. It's also being influenced by Neptune, too. There's this collective system. There's this collective... To me, it's like a... it's a story that my friend told me recently about how there is some people who like dig up on their property these ancient artifacts, but they're afraid of the government seizing the property because of the historical significance of the land, that they destroy these archetypes or hide them or get rid of them or something, so that way their land technically remains theirs and is not claimed by the government. Like, There's something about the Capricorn energy and the Pisces energy, like communicating. They're both retrograde though, so it's sort of like a reflective looking back, but looking back deeply. That energy is coming into this new moon, so it's, I mean, we're talking way deeper than even just your family. We're talking like, well, thousands of years ago. Thinking about how people lived then compared to now. It's a very feminine energy. Earth, water, earth, water. That's it. There's no masculine element that's making a bold aspect to this lunation, this moon sun conjunction. Start something new that's like so honoring of the history of the peoples. Like, it's, how can I say this? In my book that I'm trying to write, it's like, I know that I'm only alive now in this body, but there's so much evidence, and there's so much research, and there's fossil records, and there's biblical texts, religious texts, that just refer to like this human experience that's been going and going and going. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm not gonna eat it. It's just like, I don't know what it is. That's that kind of, it's like a helpful challenge. A helpful challenge. Like a constructive challenge. So, like, for me, today, I had an audition. And I was feeling a little nervous. And I was gonna do the audition, but I was like, you know what, I'd really like to use the restroom first. And like the challenging thing, like, it didn't time out well. The audition didn't time out well, just because I was trying to do a lot of different things. But I was like, you know what, I need access to a restroom. Before, I know that they've already waited on me to hear me sing and to move and to share a brief monologue, but I was like, I need to do this. And the challenge was to basically be like, I understand that they have their thing, but I have my thing. And I just sort of asked for what I want, and I had the fastest, best poo that I needed to have. It's natural. Wash my hands. I'm out there. And I was told that I had a pleasant voice and that I move well. And if I had any questions. I don't know if they're going to cast me. They may not need me, but I shook their hands and was honest. Helpful challenge. Helpful challenge. Trying to figure out my place in this grand universe. So massive. So that's sort of what's being inspired here. Now, to begin, the sun is in Cancer, ruled over by the moon, which is exactly conjuncted in Cancer on this day, on this lunation. So, being infused with a sudden move from Uranus, being sent a funnel of energy from Neptune, being opposed by Pluto, like, these energies are now all sort of talking. Now, the next step, the one that I think I want to discuss next, is the Uranus point, because this Uranus is sort of bringing in and connecting, not comfortably, I might add. Like, it's more of like a balancing give and take energy. So it's a sudden uprising that challenges, like, how you express love. So, how about this? customer service people. You are giving good customer service, you're trying to be professional, you're trying to be focused, you're trying to focus on the task at hand. Let's say you're checking out groceries, or you're taking someone's order, or like me, you're a production assistant, you're trying to find people to, a spot in the field, and you meet people that are not agreeing because this is my territory, this is what I want. And then they ask a question of you. And your job is to manage the expectations of the company and also this person's expectations. So there's this sudden, like, let's say, complaint or energy. I have to deal with those pretty frequently. Not all the time, thankfully, but like through substitute teaching or whatever job I'm doing. Sometimes you encounter those, and you may know, you may be able to call to mind. So when you go into those experiences, suddenly out of nowhere, just like all of a sudden, oh wow, this is brought. What do? How do you balance your own line with their line? The territorial, defensive, majestic, powerful, wanting worship, wanting applause. When you encounter people that are not really wanting to cooperate, maybe they have a good reason to, maybe something unfortunate happened. I don't know. Inconveniences are pretty much a feature. And there does seem to be like something slightly less than convenient. But again, Uranus is being countered, if you will, by Venus, which is like, anytime Venus is involved, I don't care if it's an unhelpful aspect like an opposition or a square. Just the something opposing you and something squaring you. But when it's the goddess of love in a very creative place, it's like, I know this is not ideal, but there's probably a really there's a great chance to be very impromptu and creative that could result from this balancing act. Uranus square, I have a Uranus square that I would say is less benefic in my chart. So in my chart, I have Mercury and Uranus squaring. Not as delightful as this one. Like in the hierarchy of whoops. Sorry about that. In the hierarchy of, this chair is like falling apart. There you go. So a sudden whoop. It's like Venus in Leo, bowing down to the Sun in Cancer. So it's going back to this nurturing, protective, feeling safe energy. So that's what I will say. So let's say this. Recent conversation. I'm encountering someone who wanted to go pick up something from Facebook Marketplace. One of those, whatever things where you can get cheap or free shit from friends, family members, community members, So one of the people was like, "Hey, I want to go do this." So that they do it. But then the other person in this couple, let me clarify. Woman goes on an adventure to get some free items from Facebook Marketplace or to buy some low-priced items. I don't remember. She does it. She gets back, and her partner's like, "Where were you?" She was like, "Oh, I got this and this and this." Where? Oh, Facebook Market. He gets so triggered and upset and like, "How dare you? You should have told me, and this is childish, and you're not thinking through, and no, because he was afraid." So how do we deal with that sudden emotion? In a perfect world, someone says, "Hey, I hear that you're concerned for my safety, and I want to thank you for sharing your concern for my safety. And next time I'll try and do a better job of alerting you because I want you to feel comfortable, and it's not a bad idea. I'll try to do that moving forward." Like that response requires so much insight that it may not be the first one that comes. The first one that comes may be more like, like, you're making me out to be a bad guy because I trusted my community enough to go and get some stuff. Like, it's not like I'm going inside. I'm just, like, the defensiveness that can come up. That, like, there's something there. Because the sun is in Cancer, man, Cancer energy is tough. This is good Cancer energy, if there ever is good Cancer energy, like good or bad being like maybe not the right words, but right now, because the moon is in Cancer, it's like really good quality Cancer energy. So, like my brother has the moon in Cancer, and I do think that he is like an inclusive, nurturing, protective person. Is he the easiest person for me to exchange ideas with? I mean, I think now I'm pretty much at a level of like, yeah, I can say what I'm thinking with this person, and I think they can say what they're thinking, and I think that that's good. But with cancers, there's a like a crab. It's concerned about keeping itself safe, its community safe, moving in a way that's aware of the elements. So, dangerous human hunters, dangerous birds, kind of going side to side. If something gets close, either retreating or even getting aggressive. Like that is one of the features of the crab. And there's in some ways like crabs are food. Like people can be food. We're at a time now where that's not really the case, but because Venus is bowing down ultimately to the sun, who is bowing down ultimately to the moon, there's like you have to deal with what you're given. Like you have to work with what you're given. Um, and what you're given is coming from really, 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 really deep, deep patterns. Like the food that I just ate. How did it get on my plate? I am only aware ultimately of the grocery store to here. What about the farm to the grocery store? What's that process like? How is that treating the environment? There's this I have to eat as far as I'm aware, even though some spiritual texts pretty much say that like there's some people that get by with like almost no food and are still fine. I've never encountered those persons in my own experience. So, if I'm being really honest, I know people have fasted for many days and been totally fine. And I believe that our hunter gatherer ancestors probably didn't have the consistent meals that we do. I, for one, can go several days without food, especially solid food, though normally I drink beverages like, maybe a lemon water or, a juice or something like a smoothie. Like, I mean, but you can go for longer than you think. Obviously, people have different medical conditions, and I don't want you to do anything that's unwise. Do your own research, really honor your body, but there's a sense of yeah, dealing with what you have been dealt, working with your unique surroundings, and because this is so universal in its scope, the things that I'm saying are very basic. So again, if you're curious to dive in as a individual, I'm happy to work with you, and I offer both free and paid consultations. So there you go. Please let me know if you're interested in that, of course. The Venus tension is being heated up perhaps a touch by this Mars in Virgo. Mars is actually at the time of this recording, Mars is very close to making its jump into Virgo. If I was a superstitious astrologer, as opposed to more of like a journalistic astrologer, I think that I would not be loving this first house Virgoian transit. So once Mars moves to being around 22, 21, 22, my ascendant is right around there. Once it gets to that point, there's a sense of like, ooh, the point that is the most me is going to be attacked, or I'm going to be an attacker, or there's a heat. Like the tone of the message becomes very warrior like, and I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure I want to be a warrior. I don't particularly like that. But when I think about being a warrior, Mars has a pretty strong place in my chart given its conjunct the midhaven. But so I think that the warrior energy, the combativeness, the challenging, the fighting, the martial quality, is something that's kind of a signature of my personality. But because Virgo is a constellation that has ultimately bowing down to Mercury in Leo, which then goes to the sun, which goes to the moon. The chain is going towards the moon. The moon is very powerful right now, honestly. It's like your body, the womb, like these are such big. If I had to give the eggs, like if sperm could be like a mixture between a little bit of solar spark with a little bit of Mars, whereas the eggs to me is like very lunar, very, I mean, maybe a little Venusian, but because there's the protective, carrying, like, I mean, this is getting very abstract and perhaps not the most. When you try to put something so significant, if you try to make your body the heavens, like, everything's going back to this it's not dreamy as much as just like deep felt, an emotional trigger. Mars really wants to fuel into learning how to specifically serve a situation. So really mastering like how to make the thing happen, how to craft the thing, how to build the thing, how to sew the thing, how to follow the recipe exactly. This is a mastery. The warrior is critical. It's learned. It's detail oriented. It's precise. There's this precise war that needs to happen. Sometimes when you have Mars in Virgo, I have a close friend who has that placement. There's a sense that sometimes the details feel like a battle. But wage the battle. Wage the battle for the details. If the difference between no headaches and headaches is being hydrated, drink some water. Right now, I'm feeling a slight band of pressure. I know that drinking water is something that could assist. I could beat myself up for being in the state that I'm in, or I could just, fight the battle, even if it's just drinking some water. I don't know what causes the sensations. I've had a really unfortunate pain sensation thing going on in my neck, shoulder kind of area. Really unpleasant. Really, really unpleasant. So, let's see. Let's see what else we want to say. That Mars energy is loosely tying into Venus. I don't think they're personally that close. It's 6 degrees. So it's still, they're definitely starting to blend. Like if you looked up at the heavens, you'd be like, oh, I can't really see one of you without the other. There would be like a darting back between a slightly brighter and a red planet. So it's like definitely the story is like, there's a little bit of a lover and a fighter. A warrior and a lover that are starting to both have a say, and it's at this point where summer begins to end. So it's the end of Leo, the beginning of Virgo. It's that point where it's like, oh, shit, like, how is summer almost done? Like, it's kind of there is a Saturn in Pisces retrograding that's directly opposite that Mars. Saturn and Mars are not my favorite characters. I mean, they are just as essential as any of the other characters, but they're not my favorite because they're just, well, I don't want to say that they are bad, but I want to say that they do bad things. They showcase bad things. So the warrior archetype could be the warrior that is like gives his life to save a community. Like that kind of warrior is still the warrior. It's still Mars. It absolutely is. So in this instance, it's like the good version of it is I literally geeked out on the details, and I really spent the time to really get that agenda looking sharp. Like I thought about every attendee. Like I really served the vision of the details to the best of my ability. Like that's like the warrior. Whereas the bad one is like I concocted a homemade like toxin that I introduced into someone's food to harm them. It's like, wow, like the same ability and care to make something so wonderful to really fight with the kind of boundaries to try to really make good use of everyone's time versus like literally concocting a disastrous thing. In the movie Fight Club, there is the fighting that may actually be bonding and helping people deal with their rage and learning how to cope with existence and toughening up. But then, oh my gosh, so quickly it becomes this sort of gang of violence, and it's like, ugh, like Saturn, the constrictor limiting force on the other side in Pisces is like basically going there the it's saying slow down. There's so it in some ways it's saying like you can do so fucking little. Like you like good luck drinking the ocean. Like there's a big ocean and you can't handle the salt. Like it's just so grimy and real. This is such a real one. No offense to any of the other signs, but if there's a real balance, it's the Virgo Pisces. Like it's so real. Because Pisces is real in the biggest, broadest sense, like the most universal, connective sense, and Virgo is real in the most finite details. Like the opposites of them are so real. It's like the ocean and the land and the map. It's so real. It's oh, this is the precise reality that it's something else. And to have the malefic planets that essentially mean no ease. They mean no comfortability. Like it's not comfortable. Like exercise. For me, I sometimes get into these lethargic states. And I have substances and things that seem to help with it, but again, I have to talk about myself to a degree. So Pisces is the 7th house and Virgo is the 1st house. So imagine this chart sort of reversed. There's a sense that for me, this is going to demand me to fight for the partnerships that should last. So okay. I think that playing flag football is so fun, but the lack of mindfulness and the potential for injury is not my favorite. Whereas if I am a dancer and I let's say I do get this role that I just auditioned for, there would need to be a battle. I would have to rehearse my lines and struggle through memorization and working with new personalities. But that environment and that athleticism is much more safe and mindful and probably a better long-term fit for me. Because getting smashed by people trying to catch a ball is something that, while I quite like it, there's a there's a sense that for me personally that may not be what's serving, whereas for you it could be the opposite. It's like, I don't want to do this. I want to be moving my body and catching the balls and bonding with the community and having a great time. And I truly don't want to tell you what's right for you and your karma and your energy system. But for me, it's like picking the real earthly fit for where am I fit to wage war against the demons? Like, so shit, it is hard. There is a hardness to this, and it's hard. The the constellation Virgo, where Mars is chilling, is ruled over by Mercury in Leo, and Mercury is far enough away from the sun that it's really, this is a creative thinker. The people that I know who have Mercury in Leo, they're so creative, so imaginative, and they convey with a sense of like flair and drama that is big. It's like having a cat stare at you. Not even a lion, just a cat. Just having a cat really giving you its attention. There's something. The messages from a cat, you get the idea that it's not doing it for you necessarily. Like, it's sort of doing it for itself. Like, it's on its own quest. It's on its own journey. And to earn the favor of a cat is to really there's something beautiful about it. There's something beautiful about it, but it isn't as if it's... I have met cuddly, puppy-like cats. In the spectrum of cats, there's certainly more puppy-like cats than others. But in general, the cat is not... There's a self-servingness in Leo that is not even bad. It's just, it is. Like, I can't eat for you. I don't have that ability. I can't eat for you, and I have eaten for myself. But maybe you can eat like me if you want to look like me. Are you judging me? Do I have too much? Am I not your type? Okay. You do have your own type. You have your own way. But if I'm attractive to you, then do something the fuck about it. Either change your body or pursue me. You know what I mean? Like, use your own eyes, use your own preferences, use your own desires, honor them. I'm a gay man. I don't, how can I say this? The smell of women, like the smell of a woman, it doesn't do it for me. Whereas the smell of man sometimes really does. There's a chemical thing going on there that I can't explain, and I don't know where it comes from. Not that women can't smell nice. They can. Men can smell nice too. But some men, I'm just like, holy crap. The way that they feel, like, it's a thing. It's a thing. Venus in Leo, Mercury in Leo, Lilith in Leo unaspected, the South Node unaspected, North Node unaspected, though 29. I feel like, I don't understand. How is there... Oh, this chart probably doesn't do aspects, because I'm like, that's an exact aspect. But I kind of like that. I don't really like using imaginary, fictitious points in relationship to real items. Like, Chiron is one that's not on this, where is Chiron now? It's in Aries. So, is there any aspects to Chiron? Yeah, Mercury is definitely making a trine to Chiron. Ish. Oh no, yes, Chiron is right there at 19 degrees. It's just not aspected. Like Lilith is another fictitious point. Yeah, I don't know. Trying to find the right software to really coax out the best story, the best inspiration from you is a unique adventure that pretty much only astrologers and storytellers are probably a good match for. If this stuff doesn't interest you, then there's really no point. But I fully trust that your story would be just as valuable as mine. I think that maybe I've done more work than most in this field, more play, more exploration. But again, the ultimate value of anyone undertaking this is the same. the karma, the habits, the practices, the spiritual legacy of certain individuals, no doubt supersedes others. Like, I have a hard time imagining the Buddha or Jesus being surpassed by another figure. Like, it doesn't, it's hard for me to even conceptualize that. But I mean, I know that there are people who have never heard of Jesus, like, never heard that story, which is remarkable to me because it's the story that I heard the most. It's a very real story for me, meaning that the story was really told, the real events of it. Now, that is subject to conjecture and interpretation, and the human condition. So, again, I don't want to step on any toes, but there's a degree of honesty that I want to convey. And I'm an ignorant soul, and there's a lot I don't know. There's a lot I don't know. The last aspect to discuss as we near the end of this is Jupiter in Taurus squaring Mercury in Leo. So these are not aspecting anything else, except for maybe Chiron. No, it's kind of far away. Another one of those, oh, this is not ideal, but there's a lot of good that could come from it because Jupiter's involved. Jupiter square, maybe too much good involved, maybe too many. So, okay, how can I do this? This is what I'll say. I bet right now, if you're still watching this, you can imagine probably 5, let's say 5, really excellent things that are good for the body. Hydration, sunlight, exercise, meditation. How about surrendering to the limits that are under your control and what's under God's or just, the grant, like, it's a big system. So as you hear all those 5 things, oh no, do I have to remember all those 5 things? What if you just remember to hydrate? What if that's the only one that you do? I gotta say, it's not gonna hurt. So don't beat yourself up. Really don't beat yourself up. I don't think that's gonna serve you. The messages, the thinkings, the details that are ever shifting very fast, this way, that way, are very creative. A lot of ideas, a lot of desires to be the center, the master, the best, to me, coming forth. Like, in a steady way, though. It's so in order to be a good eye doctor like my father, like, you need to understand the eye, and you need to be regularly engaged in the eye. It's a thing. If you want to be a good cook, you need to regularly engage in the cooking. Not that you can't take breaks. You could go months without cooking, but I think in order to be a good cook, you need to be pretty dang familiar with your materials. If you're going to be creative and, let's say, put on a show. So let's say I do get cast in this musical and I'm given a script, and then I show up and we're supposed to be off book. And I'm like, line, line, line. That's what you say when you need someone to give you your line because you don't remember. And it's okay. But if I show up and I didn't do any rehearsal, I didn't do any preparation, I didn't at least try, then, gosh, I don't think I'm going to be able to be very masterful steadily. So, oh, you want to be very comfortable? You want to have all the best of the best feelings? But you also really want to be the person who delivers the lines with the most flair? Okay, you better balance those out. Because I'm a very flighty, fast-paced, nervous, shifty kind of a bitch. I should say that. This is also an option. To just sort of Notice the breath. It seems like this nostril's a little less clogged than this one. I can change that if I want. So I don't think there's really a right way to do this, but I'm gonna close the nostril that's like flowing nicely. Hear that versus this. Do you hear the difference? Do you hear the difference? So I'm gonna do a neti pot just to see if I can help irrigate. Because there's a sense that like maybe all the dust that I was handling at the work the other day, or you know, there may be some sort of lingering congestion and allergen. So I'm like, I'm gonna clean this out. I'm gonna do some self-care, and you know, I could take some Zyrtec. I don't typically do the meds for some reason. I'm not against them, but I'm like, for me it's like kidney stones. Like I'm just like, ooh. I don't want kidney stones, and I'm not sure if medicine gives you kidney stones. I think it has something to do with liver infiltration, and I'm just like, like, that's a little bit fearful. And I'm not trying to scare anyone, but clean water. It's a hard one to imagine fucking you up. Like, clean, clear water. Thinking of my grandma, she really likes water. I quite like water. Yeah, me too. It's pretty great. It's pretty great. I'm feeling a little pain in this. So hydration, stretching, good greens. I think I did have some cage-free eggs, which I know is not everybody's cup of tea. Like Gandhi would not recommend eating animal products, but I'm like, it's a good source of protein, I think. I don't know. It feels easier than fish. But yeah, people do eat the animals. I don't know. I feel weird about it. A period of a chicken doesn't freak me out as much. If like an abortion is something that we want to be okay with, even though it is technically, you know, ending the life cycle of a potential human being, like myself, I started like that. So whereas I eat an egg, it's like, well, is it even fertilized? It would be like when a woman kind of ejects her period, it just like flakes off or whatever. It's like, would eating that be bad? I mean, I don't think so. It's like, but it is sort of, you know, like, but I'm like, I mean, if you were hungry, but I don't imagine there's much to that in the way of, I don't know. These are the types of thoughts that I have, and I understand that some people are not ready to have that kind of thought, but I'm like, I mean, you could pretty much eat a lot of different things. Like, I want to make sure that I'm getting fed in a harmonious way. Like, I just saw a snap of a friend who got a bunch of fruit snacks, and I'm like, a good deal, like at a discount price. But I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, ooh, a little plastic covered sugar goo. Like it's, what about a date? Literally dates. Being mindful of the seeds, or the tartness of a mandarin, or a fresh strawberry. These things are more expensive technically. They are. They are. But there's no trash necessarily from some of these things, like bananas. I wonder what happens with the peel. I wonder what. Surely it dissolves eventually, right? Like, it's biodegradable. It's got to be more biodegradable than plastic. And the added sugar, like, that's not. I don't think our bodies have had as long enough time to deal with that as they have with, like, fibrous things. But we're here in these bodies, and it seems to be the rules, seems to be the boundaries. As I learn things, I hope to share them. And maybe I in my attempt to be universal, I've gotten very simple and very practical. Very basic. But that's all that feels good. It doesn't feel good to say, like, oh, like, you need to do this and buy this and wear this. It's all too specific. It doesn't take into account the individual. That's why working with your individual birth chart is so fun in my mind, because you are uniquely you. You are that special manifestation. And in the specialness, there's also a way of approaching yourself as like, wow, I'm so special and so unique and also one of billions of humans. Like, they're both kind of true. So. Love, light, and the snake's bite. In my book, I might say light, love, and the snake's bite. Love, light, and the snake's bite. I feel that light, the sun, comes before love. I think light feels like it comes first. In the order. See, hopefully, if I survive, which I plan to, full moons and new moons.